There's a neurological reason why the most emotionally intelligent people in any room are the ones being underestimated. It has nothing to do with confidence, charisma, or how loud you speak. It has to do with a structure deep inside your brain called the anterior insular cortex and a pattern of neural firing that many brains simply don't run. This isn't a feel-good listicle. This is cognitive neuroscience. And by the end, you'll understand why traits society labels as weakness are actually signals of a brain operating on a higher cost, higher resolution system. Sign 9. You absorb other people's emotions without trying. This isn't being sensitive. It's an unusually active mirror neuron system. Mirror neurons fire when you act and when you watch someone else act. But more importantly, recent research links them directly to affective empathy, meaning your brain doesn't just recognize emotion, it shares it. When someone across from you is distressed, your anterior insula and anterior cingulate cortex activate, as if the distress were happening to you. That's not a personality choice, it's a biological event. To other people, it looks like you're overwhelmed. In reality, your brain is running a real-time emotional simulation most neural architectures don't support. Society calls that weakness. Neuroscience calls it superior affective resonance. Sign 8. You go quiet in conflict. Silence isn't submission. When you stop talking, your prefrontal cortex is engaging in cognitive reappraisal, a top-down regulation process that takes serious executive power. Studies on cognitive empathy show that people who do this well experience less emotional interference under stress. While someone else is shouting, their amygdala is driving the system. You're doing something harder. You're modeling their emotional state while regulating your own at the same time. That dual computation takes more bandwidth than yelling ever could. It just doesn't look dramatic, so the world misreads it as weakness. Sign 5. You replay social interactions afterward. Most people call this anxiety. For emotionally intelligent brains, it's different. Your default mode network runs counterfactual simulations. What if I'd said this? What did they mean by that? This is mentalizing, the brain updating its social prediction models using new data. Regions like the medial prefrontal cortex and temporoparietal junction are consistently involved in this process. The downside is cost. These simulations burn glucose, increase glutamate in the lateral prefrontal cortex, and leave you mentally exhausted. You're not broken. You're paying the metabolic price of deeper social computation. Sign 6. You feel physically drained after emotional conversations. This isn't metaphorical. It's interoceptive. The right anterior insula integrates signals from your body, heart rate, breathing, gut sensations, with emotional meaning. Imaging studies show that both emotional intelligence and interoceptive accuracy correlate with stronger activation in this region. When a conversation wipes you out, it's because your brain is processing more internal data channels simultaneously. You're running higher resolution input, not thinner skin. The person telling you to toughen up is simply running fewer signals. Sign 5. You know when someone is lying. Not paranoia, pattern detection. When someone lies, there are micro mismatches between what they say and how they feel. Your mirror neuron system picks up the emotional inconsistency before language catches up. Your insula registers that mismatch as a visceral signal, what people call a gut feeling. Research on psychopathy makes the contrast clear. Psychopathic brains can understand emotions without sharing them. Emotionally intelligent brains do the opposite. You share the feeling before you consciously understand it. That makes you a remarkably accurate lie detector, even when you can't explain how you know. If you recognize yourself in this, nothing is wrong with you. You're not weak, slow, or fragile. You're running a system that sees more, feels more, and costs more to operate. And the fact that it's underestimated doesn't make it less real. It just means most people have never learned how to recognize it. Let's continue with sign 4. You avoid crowds and need excessive alone time. that gets labeled antisocial. It's actually neuroprotective. In crowded environments, your mirror neuron system and your anterior insula don't shut off. Every face, every micro-expression, every emotional shift triggers processing. Your brain is constantly simulating other people's internal states. A 2025 study in Scientific Reports showed that people with high affective empathy are far more susceptible to emotional contagion and personal distress in dense social settings. Needing alone time isn't weakness, it's thermal management. Your anterior insula can only integrate so many visceral and emotional signals before performance degrades. Solitude is how your brain cools down and reorganizes. This isn't just preference. fMRI data shows the insula's interoceptive processing competes for the same neural bandwidth as external social monitoring. Your brain is forced to choose between reading the room and reading yourself. People who recharge alone aren't avoiding life. They're the ones whose brains accurately signal when the cost of social processing exceeds the return. Sign 3. You cry easily. Society treats crying as emotional failure. Neuroscience says the opposite. Crying occurs when emotional output from the anterior cingulate and insula exceeds the prefrontal cortex's regulatory capacity. Here's the key distinction. In emotionally intelligent people, this threshold is lower not because regulation is weak, but because the emotional signal is stronger. High affective empathy is associated with greater emotional interference. The signal overwhelms inhibitory control. Your tears aren't a breakdown in regulation. They're evidence that your brain generates emotional data at a bandwidth your autonomic system can't always contain. And here's the counterintuitive part. Research on vagal tone shows that people who cry more readily often have stronger parasympathetic recovery. Their nervous systems reset faster after emotional peaks than people who suppress. The person who holds it together isn't more regulated. Their brain is producing less signal, less data in, less data out, less emotional resolution. Sign 2. You apologize when it's not your fault. It looks like people-pleasing. It's actually advanced social computation. Your brain runs a predictive model. If you don't de-escalate, their distress increases. That triggers your affective empathy and costs more cognitive resources than the apology itself. So, you apologize. A 2025 study in Scientific Reports found that people high in cognitive empathy preferentially use affect-improving strategies. Not from submission, but because their brains calculate the most efficient path to reducing total emotional load. The person who never apologizes isn't stronger. They're running fewer social simulations per second. Your brain plays chess, theirs plays checkers. You're penalized for seeing more moves ahead. What's rarely discussed is that this behavior shares neural architecture with strategic planning in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the same region chess masters use to calculate moves. Your sorry isn't emotional leakage, it's a pre-computed social algorithm executing faster than conscious thought. When people call this weakness, they're watching you solve a 5-variable equation in real time and mistaking speed for impulsivity. Sign 1. You feel like you don't belong anywhere. This is the deepest one, and it has a neurological basis most people never talk about. A 2026 study in Scientific Reports introduced the idea of categorical congruence, how precisely your empathic response matches the actual emotional category of another person. People with extremely high empathic accuracy perceive emotional nuance others completely miss. You feel like you don't belong because you operate at a different resolution of social reality. You detect tension everyone ignores. You feel sadness behind smiles. You register microaggressions no one else caught. When you name it, people look at you like you're imagining things. You're not. Your anterior insula, mirror neuron system, and default mode network process social information at a depth that creates a perceptual gap between you and most people around you. That isn't weakness. That's a brain built to understand humans at a level many will never operate at. The world rewards loudness over depth, aggression over understanding, speed over accuracy. But the silence, the exhaustion, the tears, the overthinking, the isolation, those aren't flaws. They're signatures of a neural architecture that prioritizes understanding over reacting, feeling over performing, and accuracy over speed.